Hi guys. I finished both of these books by Joe Abercrombie. Okay, so it's kind of interesting because both these books are set in the same world, except this one, Best Served Cold, is a standalone book in the world, whereas The Blade itself is the first book of a series. I believe it's called the First Law series. I'm not exactly sure how many books are in the series, though. I'm not sure if it says First Law Book 1. It's in that one. Maybe it says in this one because this one came out later. Okay, so it looks like there's 3. The Blade itself, Before They Are Hanged, and Last Argument of Kings. So I made the mistake of reading Best Served Cold first. I knew that it was a standalone book, but I didn't realize that it was in the same world as the First Law. So the reason I say it was a mistake was because there are characters. I only found this out after reading The Blade itself, but there are characters in this book that show up in this book or are referenced in this book, and vice versa. There's characters in this book, like, so you kind of know a little bit of like what's gonna happen, or like, you know, if a character shows up in this book and they're in this book as well, you know that nothing bad is gonna happen to them because they survived to this book. You know what I mean? So like, slight spoilers there with, like, you know, it loses the air of mystery or like worry for a character because you're like, oh, they're fine. They're gonna be fine. Now, if I were to rate both books, this one I'd probably, like, if we're doing Goodread ratings, this one would be a 3 out of 5, and then this one I think would be a 4 out of 5. So I will say that I'm glad I read The Blade itself, but I almost didn't because I wasn't a huge fan of Best Served Cold. Even though I gave it a 3 out of 5, I feel like that's a okay score. Like, it was an okay book. I felt like the language was incredibly crass. Like, they were very colorful with their insults, and I'm not, like, I don't swear very often, like I do sometimes, but it's not something that I feel like books need, or, you know, stories need. In certain occasions, yeah, it can get a point across, but I really don't enjoy books that swear overly. I feel like it just kind of ruins it for me. And this one, it's pretty extreme for my taste. I also was not crazy about the story. Like, I didn't really care about the main character. I didn't yeah, I just didn't care if she completed her goal of vengeance. That's kind of what the whole story is about. Is character is wanting revenge, and revenge is best served cold. Yeah, it's the entire book is just her trying to get her revenge on some people, and yeah, I could have cared less. But some of the characters I did enjoy. I felt like the humor with some of the characters was pretty funny. So that's probably why I gave it a 3, was because, yeah, I didn't particularly like how it ended. Yeah, I don't know. I definitely would not recommend reading this first. I feel like it leaves a lot to be desired. Maybe if I would have read it after the first law series, it would have been more like exciting for me, because I would have been like, ooh, this character shows up from the books, and it, maybe it would have been more exciting. But that was my mistake, Case. I know I've read the back of this before. Okay, apparently it's not the back. I think maybe it's different. Okay. I'll read the little synopsis. I'm pretty sure I've read it before, but may as well since we're talking about it. Springtime in Styria, and that means war. There have been 19 years of blood. The ruthless Grand Duke Orso is locked in a vicious struggle with squabbling League of Eight, and between them they have bled the land white. While armies march, heads roll, and cities burn, behind the scenes, bankers, priests, and older, darker powers play a deadly game to choose who will be king. War may be hell, but for Monzo Mercado, the Snake of Talons, the most feared and famous mercenary in Grand Duke Orso's employ, it's a damn good way of making money too. Her victories have made her popular, a shade too popular for her employer's taste. Betrayed, thrown down a mountain and left for dead. Mercado's reward is a broken body and a burning hunger for vengeance. Now, whatever the cost, 7 men must die. Her allies include Styria's least reliable drunkard, Styria's most treacherous poisoner, a mass murderer obsessed with numbers, and a barbarian who just wants to do the right thing. Her enemies number the better half of the nation, and that's all before the most dangerous man in the world is dispatched to hunt her down and finish the job Duke Orso started. Springtime in Styria, and that means revenge. And then I thought it was pretty funny, this for Grace. I'm not sure who Grace is, but this is dedicated to Grace. One day you'll read this and be slightly worried. A little bit more than slightly, in my opinion, but yeah. There is a lot of violence in this book too. Most of it didn't bother me per se, but there were a few spots that kind of made my stomach turn. But I guess that makes sense because she is going for vengeance, so not all of the vengeance was polite, we will say. Okay, so this one though was a lot better. I found that it was a little bit slow at times. It follows 3 different characters. One of them is a character named Glokta. He is a torturer, like that is his profession, and he has been tortured himself. He was a soldier before, then he was tortured and kind of made a cripple. They call him a cripple a lot in the book, but he's in constant pain, and he has kind of like a twisted sense of humor, which, you know, I find him to be a very interesting character. I can't tell if he's necessarily a good guy or a bad guy. I think it's too early. I feel like this book is a lot of setup for the later series, which is why it's a little bit slower at times. And then it follows another character named Logan. He is a northerner, is what they call them. And I don't know, he doesn't really have a job, I guess. He's basically a warrior, or he was a warrior, and really I think now he just wants to settle down. He's done with, you know, killing and war and all that, but definitely feel like there are other plans for him. And then the last character, which I'm having trouble remembering his name right now. Jezal. He is a nobleman, and he is being trained to become like a master fencer so that he can try to win this fencing contest and make his dad proud. So each character is very different from the other one, and the chapters kind of bounce around between the 3. So if you don't like books that follow multiple characters, then you probably won't like this, I guess. I like those kind of books, though. I like when books tell stories from multiple perspectives. I find it very interesting. The weird thing, though, is that about halfway through the book, it randomly adds another character. And it just felt very out of place. It does make sense by the end of it, but I was not expecting it. But yeah, it's pretty good. It's a little bit slow, which is why it's a 4 instead of a 5, but I definitely want to read the next book in the series. I'm intrigued as to where the story is going to go and what's happening. So, if you like fantasy, you might like this. And it's not too violent either. Like, I know that I said one of the characters is a torturer, but most of that kind of thing I feel like is behind closed doors. Okay, so read the back. It actually talks about each character. So, Logan Ninefingers, infamous barbarian, has finally run out of luck. Caught up in one feud too many, he's about to become a dead barbarian, leaving nothing behind but sad songs and dead friends. And then Jezzel Dan Luther, paragon of selfishness, has nothing more dangerous in mind than winning glory in the fencing circle. But war is brewing, and on the battlefields of the frozen north, they fight by altogether bloodier rules. And then the last one, Inquisitor Glokta, cripple turned torturer, would like little better than to see Jezzel come home in a box. It's true, Glokta does not like Jezzel at all. But then he hates everyone, which is not necessarily true, I don't think. Cutting treason out of the heart of the Union, one confession at a time, leaves little room for friendships. And his latest trail of corpses could lead straight to the rotten heart of government, if he can just stay alive long enough to follow it. So, it follows those three characters. And I don't know, I think it's worth the read. It's not too long. Let's see. "536 pages. So good size, but not too big. Anyway, that is those books. I am still reading The Fourth Wing. I'm about halfway through it, and I have very, very mixed thoughts on the book. Still not sure how I feel. So, let me know if you would like my thoughts on it when I'm done, and I can make a video giving my kind of review, I guess, if you enjoyed this type of video. And I will see you next time, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, found it relaxing. It's very, very hard to do soft-spoken. I keep wanting to dip back into whispering, so, good job, me. I get a pat on the back for later. Alright, take care, sweet dreams. I will see you later. Bye.